Welcome to the Innovation Storytellers podcast. We talk to innovators and disruptors in R&D, product managers, intrapreneurs, and entrepreneurs, innovation thought leaders, and their storytellers who help bring their amazing ideas to life. Now, here's your host, Innovation Storyteller, CEO, speaker, and coach to the world's top innovation teams, Susan Lindner.
Hi, I'm Susan Lindner and your host of Innovation Storytellers. And for the past 20 years, I've been helping innovators and disruptors to tell their stories. 10 acquisitions, hundreds of innovative products, and countless hockey stick growth curves that have created lots of new categories in our space. I've wanted to take all of that experience and share how great innovations get to market using stories to pave the way. And I'm so excited today that Nicolas Bry is joining us today from Paris. Nicolas is an incredible innovator, intrapreneur, and author and entrepreneur. He is the innovation booster at Orange, or Orange, as we say in France, for both Africa and the Middle East, and has been helping 20 innovation managers at Orange Africa to develop innovation projects locally and to take on hundreds of new creative solutions that will change the way that companies in Africa and frankly around the world look at innovation and changing how they communicate. So who better to have on the program around innovation storytelling than someone who is fueling a new revelation in communication and telecommunication around the world? Nicolas, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Susan, for having me, and I'm very happy to share the learnings and some of my experience during the 10 years I've been working at Orange.
You and I met a year ago now in Paris when there was a giant innovation conference being held in Paris with BPI France. I was attending there to speak, and you were kind enough to meet me and talk about all things innovation at Orange. And coming from a giant telecommunications company, we think that innovation is happening all the time, but you are enabling innovation to not just happen all the time, but really everywhere. You are this empowerment force behind innovation in Africa. Can you tell us a little bit about how a giant global telecom company comes to find entrepreneurship and incredible innovation working from France all the way into Africa?
Okay, so what is really interesting in Africa right now is the way people leverage digital to accelerate their activities, in touch with agricultural activities with connected objects, or education with online platform. Fintech is very, very strong in Africa, inventor of the mobile money, and we have this service which is incredible, which is Orange Money. Particularly interesting at this time to cross this digital impulse in Africa with the way we have learned to manage innovation in the US and in Europe, mainly based on going fast, testing fast our ideas with the end users, corporate user targets, learning fast and improving fast the value proposition.
Yeah.
So that's my job, basically, to understand the context, to adapt to the 20 innovation manager I'm supporting, and to brief them, to support them with innovation methodology based on design thinking and lean startup.
So let's back up a little bit. Can you give us a little bit about the history of Orange working in Africa? And, I think what strikes me is so many people think that this is new, right? But there is great innovation finds its way to the surface, right? Cream comes to the top wherever great ideas are to be had. Execution is something else, but I don't want to make the case that innovation is something new in Africa, right? This has been happening since time began.
It's not new, but it's accelerating. And today will be the opening of the African open market for trade, like the US market and like the European market. I'm sure it will definitely boost the trade exchanges and the money transfer, which can facilitate these trade exchanges, commercial business. So Orange started its journey almost 10 years ago based on the fact that mobile penetration in Europe, where Orange is present, like in France, Spain, Poland, and so on, had reached an asymptote, had reached a kind of limit, and that the growth relays in terms of mobile usage will come from other countries, and especially from Africa, considering the low penetration at this time, and also the high growth of the population. So Orange started its journey in several Francophone countries, and then in Maghreb, Egypt and Jordan, and then also in Maghreb, Morocco, Tunisia. And for the Francophone countries, it incorporates Ivory Coast, Senegal, Guinea. We are now present in 19 countries in the African countries. And we started by developing traditional telco business, mainly with mobile network and mobile offering. Of course, adapting to the local usage because as in the US and in Europe, we are very familiar with monthly subscription, with unlimited data usage or voice usage. It's not at all the case in Africa where for the usage every day. And so they top up the usage of the day. And so they have to recharge in kind of a prepaid voice usage every day, spending a few euro to upgrade the service to be able to make the call.
This is still very common now, Nicolas?
This is still very common, and now data is taking an increasing place compared to voice that linked to the internet usage and the development of smartphone. So Orange, for example, has launched a smartphone in partnership with Google, very cheap, around $30.
Wow. I should go there just for the smartphone, right?
So that people can use the digital network, but with the right digital device. And you have to imagine that the usage of the data is increasing, but it's still not unlimited data usage included in a subscription like in Europe or in the US. You have to pay for a data bundle. So when you consume all your data bundle, you have to recharge it. And that's what Africans are still used to do on a regular basis.
Yeah. And this is part of a market philosophy that says pay for what you need. Is it based on this is how much capital I have to spend each day or each month? And so this idea of a subscription plan doesn't kind of fit into the mindset just yet?
I don't want to say something which is too much general because, Africa is not a country. It's a continent.
The continent, of course. And every market is different.
55 countries with different philosophy of life. But maybe what has struck me in the past months I've worked with African people is that they are very much living in the present. And so what will come today, what will happen today, and tomorrow is another day.
Yeah.
And so maybe this fits quite well with the idea of having a data or voice credit only for the day.
Yeah.
Probably we will see things change. For example, unlimited data service emerging. I've seen them in South Africa and Nigeria. And in this case, the mobile data is used as a fixed internet access, actually, like your home access or to the internet. So it's not like a mobile access.
Got it.
I just wanted to add to your question about how Orange started in Africa with another illustration, if I may. So in the course where we were developing this mobile network for the 19 countries where we are present on a traditional telco business, we saw a new usage emerging in Kenya, developed by Safaricom, the local mobile operator, enabling money wallet linked to the mobile account and solving a huge problem for African people, the ability to transfer money from one mobile to another mobile account without having any bank account. Here, we use our bank account to transfer money and we send the money this way, but 20% of African people only have access to a bank account. So it was very difficult to transfer money before the invention of this mobile wallet, which is called mobile money or M-Pesa in the Kenyan language. And the Orange saw that this was a great success in Kenya, that really people were adopting this mobile money service linked to their mobile to transfer money. And Orange developed a platform that could serve 19 countries where Orange is present in Africa, something with a very solid and efficient infrastructure. And then we supported the 19 countries of Orange in Africa, step by step, promote this service, which is called Orange Money, which enables money transfer, but also it enables you to pay the bills. And for example, for the water, electricity, or the television service, if you have a paid TV service. And it enables you to pay online. So you can pay web merchant with mobile money, and you can pay also for the shop in the streets. You just have to cash out the money with an Orange Money partner, and you can cash in with every Orange Money partner. It's not like a bank network where you have several bank agencies. Here, for example, I think you have over 15,000 Orange partners in one country, in 15,000 places to cash in or cash out. And so after several years, this is more or less a more financial business. But after almost 10 years, we managed to have acquired or seduced or attracted 50 million of African users. 50 million. So
50 million.
Wow. 50
Wow.
million. So I like this story because it's not something that Orange invented. Not at all. It was invented in Kenya. It's not high tech. There is no artificial intelligence. There is no drone. There is no autonomous car in it.
No Bitcoin happening in the background. No blockchain.
No blockchain. It's just simple SMS.
Yeah.
Text messaging, but it definitely solves a true problem in people's life. It's a transformative innovation that transforms people's life, and it's a huge popular success. So that's the innovation I always share as an objective with the 20 innovation managers I support.
Yeah. So take us a little bit to the story, Nicolas, of how you get 50 million people to sign on to a service that, although it may not be new in Kenya, it may certainly be new in Senegal or the Côte d'Ivoire or any of the other places where that you are working. What is the story that you tell people to trust their mobile phone as their bank?
I believe it's building on the trust that they have with their mobile operator. So you're definitely right. There have been new entrants on this mobile wallet, which had no branding to put forward. In many countries, their success is more limited. Also, it's something that is very nice to use across the family, across the close relatives. Everybody can access the Orange Money service, even if they don't have an Orange monthly subscription. And so money can circulate as easy as it were shared within a WhatsApp group. Money sharing becomes like a conversation. And this is something that is really usual because sometimes you lend money to a relative or sometimes it's reciprocal in Africa. And so these kind of movements are very regular. And so we have leverages on this to propagate the service.
It's a word of mouth, even with family, right? So then someone says you have to have the service in order for me to send you money. Someone signs up quickly on their phone and then boom, 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 boom. It just kind of takes off.
Exactly. They have a word in Africa, in Francophone Africa, which is called tontine, which illustrates the fact that the family is helping you in case you have any difficulty, any money problem. And that, of course, is reciprocal.
So I just want to put that out to my mom and my sister. I may be calling at some point for some tontine.
Tontine. Exactly.
This is a good word for all of us after the holidays when our bank accounts are empty. It's time to reach out for a little extra help. So this is wonderful. So this is just one piece of the innovation, right? But now you are finding, I imagine, services that you can layer on top because Orange has become a bank. You have shifted from becoming a communications company, maybe even a media company in some cases, and now you are a financial services company.
Yeah, exactly. And so we are not acting as a bank, so people don't need a bank account to use Orange Money. We are acting as a financial service. And for example, a few projects that we have developed on top of this financial platform. In Burkina Faso, we have enabled the students to pay for their meals with Orange Money. So we have digitized the meal ticket, and they can buy it and pay with Orange Money wallet when they go to the university. And of course, in this time of sanitary crisis where you want to minimize the contact, this is a contactless service. And this was very appreciated by the student. It was also very appreciated by the manager of the restaurant in the university, because with this, he gets the information about the consumption of the meals directly in his IT, directly in his information system. He doesn't have to input the paper tickets into the information system. And that's, of course, inefficiency and time saving. We also sometimes partner with startups to build new services. And for example, in Ivory Coast, the shop in the street said, okay, people want to know where are the shops which accept the Orange Money payment, like the Visa card payment. And we partner in Ivory Coast with a startup. We shared with them the information about shops that are compliant with Orange Money, and they put them in a map, just like a Google map. And so when you are an Orange user in Ivory Coast and you say, okay, I want to buy something like food or something like material, any kind of material and so on, you can ask on the map where is the nearest Orange Money compliant shop. And with the help of this startup, you can geolocate the shop near to you.
Wow. So this is really putting your shopping map right in your fingertips, right? It's right in your phone.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that sounds natural in Europe, in US, because every shop is accepting Visa card or MasterCard. But you have to understand the local context, and it's not so obvious in Africa and Middle East.
Sure. And I love that you're partnering with startups. I mean, are your on the ground 200 innovation managers? They are the scouts, right? They are looking for the next new startup that's going to support both the local economy, the local innovation infrastructure, and Orange's own innovation platform.
Yes, they have some contact with the local startup in their country, but I also put forward a few startups that I am in contact with, and these startups come from countries where we are not present, from South Africa, from Egypt. We are present in Egypt, but from South Africa, from Nigeria, and from Kenya. Actually, there is a difference of speed between these countries, the Anglophone countries, and the Francophone countries in the race for digital innovation. And Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Egypt completing the race ahead. So it's interesting to contact startups from this country with my local innovation managers. And those local innovation managers are in charge to connect with the right business unit, which can be interested by the solution brought by the startup, and then to support the joint exploration, that is to say, building together a value proposition and a business model canvas, and then bringing some kind of mock-up, some kind of materialization of the idea on a mobile phone, on some mobile screen, for example, to the user target. It may be corporates or it may be consumers, and getting the feedback and hopefully the positive feedback from this target to transform it into an innovation project. So the local innovation manager really focused on exploring ideas, materializing them, and getting approval from the target, while then they hand over to the business unit for the development and exploitation of the innovation project.
So this was the question I was just about to ask you. How do you take these ideas that are coming from the field that may sound completely different to the innovation process that's happening in Paris, and bring these ideas to the boardroom, to your executives, and say, this is something that we have to capitalize on. We have to do this now. Tell us a little bit about how the process works at Orange, and then what's the story that you tell to get people on board, to get people to say yes? How do you get managers who have never been to Sierra Leone and Ivory Coast and Senegal to envision making the transformation from being a communications company to offer financial services?
Yes. It's a struggle.
Well, now you found the common theme for everyone who comes on the show. Nicolas is like, oh, the board meeting. Oh, the tech meeting.
The chance that we have is that maybe we are born innovation companies because we are born on technology innovation. So inventing high-speed network, fixed high-speed network, broadband network, mobile telephony, and so on. So people are used to innovation and people value a lot innovation. Maybe the background is that traditionally this innovation came from as you said, from the central division in Europe that build and push forward for the different countries. Mm-hmm. And this will continue because for some of the platform, it's interesting to have this expertise coming from Europe and this mutualization between different countries. But there are different kind of services that require more customization, more localization, more agility to be able to respond to what the competition is doing in a short time scale. And I would say, in this case, my best ally to convince local CEO that they should support local innovation, my best allies are the competition and the innovation ecosystem. So the competition, it's named Airtel from India or MTN from South Africa or Vodafone also. They are all operators delivering new services on a regular basis, and Orange has stick with them or sometimes to be ahead of them, of course.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that's very nice. MTN, especially in South Africa, is quite an innovative. They are doing a lot also with the financial services that they have developed.
But I imagine there's a lot of trust, Nicolas, between you and, the team in Paris that says, we trust you to understand what's going on the ground and the decisions that have to be made, right? I mean, but you're making very large investments, right, in order to bring on 50 million users.
I would say that the river is here. The flow, the stream, the power is here. You just have to hack a little part of this power to bring it to the new kind of innovation that you want to develop. So it's not like building from nothing. It's more about hacking some part of the power in the right direction. And you have to imagine maybe the central division is focused on their big marketing or 5G platform. You have to imagine the local CEO, they are fighting on prices and acquiring users and retaining these users. And here I come with my 20 innovation manager, and we say we'd like to do something different. We'd like to just add a new service locally that will ease the life of the local users, and that will help, of course, to build loyalty with our users and bring some additional revenue. And so we have to divert some part of this orange power to this innovation. And definitely in this case, my best allies is the competition and the startup ecosystem, because as I said before, for example, the fintech ecosystem is really very creative, but also agri-tech, edtech, informal business. And for this, I have built a few communication channels like a WhatsApp group and a radio innovation show. And continuously, every day for the WhatsApp group, every 1 or 2 weeks for the radio innovation channel, I push forward some information about how innovation is developing, how tech innovation is developing in Africa. And just this morning, I pushed forward a post by saying there are 2 main growth relays in 2021 in Africa for telcos. Are we going to miss them?
What are those 2?
It's a bit provocative, of course, to trigger people.
If we're not being provocative in innovation, where is it going to happen? We had better be provocative in innovation.
And so for me, these 2 growth relays, it's just really simple about analyzing the situation. As I said, the continental market is opening in Africa to be one trade market. Mm-hmm. And many platforms are already organizing cross-border payment. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a cross-currency payment.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not like us with the euro or you with the dollar. So you have to handle this payment across the country. And it's definitely a network operation that a telco could seize the opportunities, potentially by acquiring a startup that is already developing the first step of a platform and extending the platform across all the continent. Because as you said, it will bring their brand and bring trust in the financial transfer. So I call it cross-border network. Will we seize this opportunity? And the other opportunity is Amazon has just launched in the US an IoT network, leveraging all the eco devices to be like little antennas to cover a city. You just need 700 people to cover the city of Los Angeles. 700. So that's very few. Considering the population of Los Angeles. I don't know, it's over 10 million, no?
It's huge. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Huge. And so with this 700 people and with the Alexa Echo device, you cover with an IT network of Los Angeles. And so IoT, Internet of Things network, it enables to follow every sensor that are in the city, every tracker that you can have on the dogs, in the bag of your children to follow where your children are and so on. So it's a data network. And potentially having this kind of competition of data network, it can harm the data network that operators operating on 4G and 5G. And say what Jeff Bezos says. He says, your margin is my business. And so I said, it's going on in the US. If it's a success, it will probably go to Europe and in Africa. We should be prepared for this and maybe develop our own IoT urban system before Amazon comes.
Yes, that is the big terror, right? I think there was an article in the New York Times this weekend about, what is the future of Amazon? What else will it eat and swallow over the course of the next 10 years? Nicolas, you've had such a storied career in innovation, at Deutsche Telecom as the Chief Product Innovation Officer. You've been an innovation lecturer at the Google Academy, and you are also one of the founders of the Orange Valley Explorative Lab as the Chief Innovation Officer there. This experience on the home front rather than on the international front, what is now kind of de rigueur, right? It's very typical for large companies to have this kind of innovation lab or a startup lab or so forth. But you were really doing this back in 2008. You were looking at ways to bring innovation to Orange in a way that was very different. And I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit about when you first started this back in 2008, what was the intention of the Orange Valley Explorative Lab? And then how do you see it now, 12 years or 13 years later from what you started?
Well, the intention at this time was we are network operators and what we call over-the-top players. So companies developing new services like Google, Facebook.
Those startups?
Yes, those startups, they are doing much more money than we do with their services. They are also much more valued than we are. You have to imagine that at that time, the GAFA were the equivalent of the global French market stock exchange. The 40 largest companies in France, it's called the CAC 40. The GAFA were the equivalent of the CAC 40. 10 years later, Apple only is the equivalent of the CAC 40.
There you go.
Orange realized 10 years ago, we are missing the value creation. We are a side of the flow is going, where the stream is going. And so they created this explorative lab to see whether we could capture some value by creating innovative services. And so we investigated in music platform services like Spotify, but a few months before, we developed a tablet that was commercialized before the iPad.
Wow.
And
how did that work out, by the way, Nicolas?
It worked out on a limited basis because it was sold curiously, it was sold in many shops, but not in the Orange shops. And that's one of the learning, that is to say, if you want to explore things and then to connect with the core business, you have to do both at the same time. You have to be ambidextrous. You have to explore and maintain the contact with the core business to get their commitment. In other words, you have to integrate before succeed. Integration is come first. And maybe that's something we understood over time, but at the beginning, it was not completely understood.
This is another space that I love this podcast for us to be able to share what didn't work. Certainly, when Steve Jobs built a competing product in your backyard, you might get a little nervous. But also the marketing and the way that we roll out products is just as important as the product itself. Would you agree?
Yes, and if you want to leverage the brand and the marketing forces, the distribution forces of your company, you have to onboard them very upstream. You have to create the desire for them to accept and to adopt this innovation. You have to understand how this innovation is solving a problem for them and not creating new problems. So that's
We
really
say
a
that one more
mindset.
time. Your innovation has to solve a problem, not create new problems in order
For
for it to
them.
work. Just in case we didn't get that in our Innovation 101 class, we should remember that innovation has to solve a problem, not create new problems.
It's a question of pull and not push. You have to create the desire of the business unit to take this new product with them and push them in their commercialization network. You have to create this desire. It's like a new encounter. You don't push. You try to seduce someone with creating an attraction.
This is the most French thing that I have heard this morning in our podcast today. That the way that we market to the consumer is seduction.
Seduction. There are so many things that come to the consumers. And, that's exactly what's going on right now with commercialization on Instagram, for example. Your stream of posts on Instagram, and among them, there is something that might seduce you, Susan.
It is entirely possible, and it has happened before. It usually
There's a very
happens
nice
around
picture.
1 o'clock in the morning when I can't sleep, and I was like, I really should get that new makeup, that new workout outfit, that new whatever at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's when they get me when I'm at my weakest.
It's very nicely done. It's very seducing, very nice pictures and so on. You just have to click and then your purchase is completed. So.
Right. And I don't even have to use my bank anymore, right? With Orange services, I can just get it right out of my phone.
And so basically, innovation is something that should be adopted by your stakeholders, by your partners within the company in the same way, smoothly. And that's what I explained to my 20 innovation manager. Build trust around what you do on innovation within your local entity. And then it will be adopted. The innovation that come further will be adopted all the more easily in the long run. Don't try to succeed at first. Try to be accepted, and then you will succeed.
So is it your philosophy then, Nicolas, that the way that innovation moves through a company that gets the engineers on board, that gets the marketing team, the retailing team on board is also seduction? What are the keys to seducing internal buy-in inside of a large company? How do you seduce internal audiences inside of a company?
What I want to say that the leadership part, creating alliances, building a network, supporting your ID is part of the innovation challenge. I would say maybe having the ID, catching the ID, shaping the ID is 20% of the job. Then completing a relevant user experience, building an attractive customer experience, building the product is another 40% of the job. So 20 plus 40, it's 60. The last 40 is about building a network of allies.
Building a network of allies. And what's your best suggestion for doing that? Is it give and take? Is it let me show you what I can do for you? How do you influence that last 40%? How do you get those allies on board?
First, I think they have to understand that you listen to them. And when you come with your innovation and they say, it's interesting, but no, Susan, I don't want to take it. You have to say,
don't want to risk it.
It's not the right time. It's not relevant. There are all their reasons, but you have to trust them and say, okay, it's not relevant. I'll come back with another idea. That's a reason why you need to liaise with them very early with an idea that you have built some kind of prototype in a 2 or 3 months time, some kind of mock-up. You have captured a few customer insights to support your idea. It's not only your idea, it's an idea that has seduced consumers, corporate users. Then you can liaise with the business unit and candidly, genuinely discuss about the opportunity. If they say no, it's not an opportunity, you have to trust them. It's not only about them trusting you, it's also about you trusting them. You have only worked 3 months building this mock-up. It's okay. You can put it in the trash. If you have built this product during 12 months, believe me, you won't say yes to them. You will say, no, I think you are wrong. You need this innovation because after 12 months of work, you are not ready to put what you have done in past. That's another reason why you need, because very early you are able to pivot and change your mind.
Yes. So I just want to review what you said. So number one, and we always say this in innovation storytelling, is that you have to be a great listener. Great storytelling, right? And influencing those people inside begins with great listening and listening very deeply to what those internal audiences truly need so that you're not building for what you think is right, but also for what they need. Step two is to move quickly and to create a prototype so that people can feel what you're really offering them and the value that you're offering them and make it clear. So we understand that there might be a pivot, there might be a need to change, et cetera, but being able to build something in conjunction as a team with the people that you're trying to sell it to, really listening. And then, we always say in innovation storytelling, make the listener the hero. So part of the, I guess to use your words, Nicolas, the seduction process is saying, let me tell you how you are going to be greater as a result of you adopting this innovation, of bringing this on and getting that last 40%. Do you then, let's say that this team that you're pitching to says yes, and they go on and they build the product, where does the innovation team do the handoff and where do you part ways? Or is the innovation team building all the way through to the end with the execution teams?
Just wanted to add to your summary, which was really great. In this course of action and discussion with the business unit, you start to understand their business and you start to capture what their problems are. And when an innovation idea comes and you can match it with one of their problems that you have captured, you know that you are on the right path because you will bring them a solution, not an innovation.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. Okay, let's say that again. So when you really are listening for the problems that need to be solved, you will be bringing them a solution rather than an innovation.
Exactly.
What an incredible way to frame that, because innovation also brings with it terror, right? It brings with the fear of change. It means leaving the known for the unknown as opposed to just solving a problem that is only going to make their life better.
That's the story of Orange Money. It solved a real problem. And at the beginning with the business unit, they were not really supporting this because it was a change for them. Okay, we are selling mobile traffic. We are now going to promote financial service. It's a change. What's the payback? How will we do money on this and so on? And monitor from the start. We observed from the start that people who are using Orange Money are more loyal to Orange mobile service.
If they trust you with their dollars, right? How could they not trust you with 1,000 other things? You're going to offer a babysitting service for their children soon, right?
Actually, in Africa, many people have a multi-SIM phone. That is to say, they change operator from one day to another day.
Amazing.
And so, because they were using Orange Money, they were more loyal. The churn was lower. The churn was lower with the mobile traffic usage. And this brought the business unit on board because they realized we are solving one problem, which is the churn of our users.
Well, Nicolas, this has been a fascinating conversation. I have 3 questions that I ask every guest on the show. So I want to ask you these questions as well. So what is your favorite innovation of all time? What is the innovation that you admire the most?
First, I like the Orange Money story, but it's too close to my premises. I'm not sure I admire an innovation, but definitely the innovation that changed my professional life and then my personal life is the iPhone. I like the story because it was not 100% invented by Apple. There had been a smartphone before, but they took the best of different invention and they aggregated it in something which was quite advanced. Not yet perfect because the first iPhone had no 3G access. It was only 2G GPRS access. So you can imagine the speed. So they aggregated the best of different invention and they progressively invented an ecosystem with the App Store, with iTunes and so on and so on. And so I think this way they created definitely a new way to do innovation, not only thinking about the product, but also about the business model, about the ecosystem and a very comprehensive view of innovation.
Okay. And if you could invent a new innovation, if you could bring something to light, a fantastical, God, I wish I had kind of thing, what would that be?
Definitely. I mentioned 2 axes for telco in Africa. I will put all the strength that I have to try to seduce, attract some key stakeholders at Orange to move into one of these 2 directions because I think there are tremendous opportunities for someone who knows how to operate network.
Uh-huh. So that's next.
My challenge is not about building and delivering an innovative product. It's really about having the most powerful influence on the right decision makers.
And is there an innovator that you admire most?
I like Edison, very much the inventor of the light, of the bulb, because he said this invention is not a success. It's another try that did not fail.
That's right. We have had guests on from GE, that certainly the outgrowth of Edison, and also from Corning Glass, who made the glass that went around the light bulb. And so we have had the heads of innovation on from both companies talking about Edison and the incredible ability to not fail on that very last try. And he is a perennial favorite. When you come to New York, Nicolas, I'm going to take you to Edison's workshop, which is just in a half an hour outside of New York City. And you can tour the place where the light bulb was made and you can see all of how he made it and all of his team that wound up working on it. The question I always raise to folks who come on the show is in the corporate world today, right? Edison failed 10,000 times before getting to that final try. What would happen if your CEO walked in at attempt number 8,761? Would he say, okay, Nick, give up now? Or would he say, you have unlimited cash, keep going until it happens? What do you think would happen in corporate France today if Edison was working away?
I would say that, and what we are trying to do is to test and learn in very frugal conditions. This is really the shield that I build to protect my community of innovation manager is that they don't need much money to collect ideas and test them with the end user. It's very easy to build a mock-up with a smartphone and to make as if the service exists to materialize the customer journey without actually developing anything. And secondly, I would say maybe unfortunately there is almost no chance that the CEO come to me to control what I do in local innovation in Africa because traditionally we have more CEOs that are involved in managing the entire company and the different process and the different division than CEOs that are deeply committed into a new innovative project. Like you can imagine Steve Jobs was committed on the iPhone or on the iPad. We don't have that kind of tech entrepreneur in charge of large companies here.
Unless you're Tesla, right?
Yeah, it's nothing to do with Elon Musk. We are more people who have been trained to manage large companies on a kind of recurrent business. And they do it perfectly well. Sometimes it may be for them more difficult to imagine that we could create something new on top of this recurrent business.
Well, Nicolas, thank you so much for joining me today on the show. I'm so excited, and I know all of our audiences are going to be fascinated to hear about innovation in Africa and across all of these different countries. And I know that you've written a book as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I have. Before Africa, I created and managed the entrepreneurship program at Orange for 3 years. So giving a chance to every employee to suggest an innovation and if he's selected to implement it himself. So it's really an illustration of the Gandhi sentence, be the change you want to see. So a hand given to every employee is very engaging for employees, I believe. And I met during these 3 years more than 40 entrepreneurship and innovation manager across Europe. And I realized that I was always talking about the same 10 points, 10 steps to build an entrepreneurship program. That's the reason why I started with this book.
To stop telling it and start writing it.
Exactly. And it takes you through 10 steps. It doesn't give you an answer for each step. It gives you a few examples from the different 40 companies that have committed into entrepreneurship. And so it says, for step 1, Lufthansa has decided to do so, but Bouygues Telecom has decided to do so. Vinci has decided to do another way. And then in addition to this methodological part to build your innovation program, there are 20 entrepreneurs that share their stories from the different companies, and they explain what they have learned during this journey, what was their personal development, and what kind of business developed thanks to this innovation program.
Well, it's fantastic. So we are going to include the link to Nicolas's book. Yeah, what is it called?
The Entrepreneur Factory.
Love it. The Entrepreneur Factory. So you'll be able to order the book on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. And yes, Nicolas, thank you so much for giving us such a global view of entrepreneurship. We are so grateful.
Thank you, Suzanne. That was very nice.
Thank you.
This innovation story has ended, but yours is just beginning. Go to innovationstorytellers.com, download the free Innovation Storytelling Blueprint, and sign up to pre-order Susan's book, Innovation Storytelling. Get the resources, runway, and recognition you deserve. Due out this spring. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Until the next innovation story.